ministry that the Lord has called me to isn't quite that exciting, I'm afraid. I often think of Audrey in my ear. Years ago, I taught Bible Study Fellowship. I don't know if any of you know what that is, just a big women's Bible study in Reading. And the Lord clearly called me out of that. And what I heard is, you're going to go where I tell you to go and speak what I tell you to speak from Jeremiah 1:7. But in another incident, when I was praying, going, Lord, what? He kind of said to me, feed my sheep. And Audrey points out to me, you're feeding the ewes. You're feeding the ewes. Because my ministry is clearly to women. That's where I feel the call to be. And it has taken on several facets. One of them, and the one I probably spend the most time on, is individual mentoring. Women who have come to me in a number of different ways, either referred by a pastor or have just come to me and said, I really don't know what I'm doing here. And what I've come to learn over time from that is that we have a lot of pain in our pews. And the pain in the pew is just a one-day retreat. It is not the whole ministry. But the subline on that is ministering to our wounded sisters, because there are so many who come and sit in our churches. And as I've gotten involved in these relationships of mentoring, I have seen so much childhood abuse, so much marital abuse, so much verbal abuse, and women are just, especially Christian women, just don't know what to do. And what I've learned also is the church doesn't know what to do, and quite frankly, I don't know exactly how to fix them. What God has really shown me is that my work is to hold their arms up in the battle. God is with us as we go through trials, but sometimes I think He calls me and says, now will you just go stand with that one and hold her arms up while I get her through this. And 100% of the time in a one-on-one, I want to do a Bible study because I know that it's God's Word that changes people and that people use to change situations. So that is one and a major portion of the ministry that I do. I also feel called to teach, and I have done retreats and women's ministry breakfasts and, oh, help me out here, mother-daughter things and Christmas banquets. Have a very local ministry. I'm not national. I would go national if the Lord called me there, but He hasn't called me there. So that's kind of what I do. And then I teach wherever He calls me to teach, like here. Again, to the women, I really feel that's my ministry. The Pain in the Pew retreat came out of last year. A large church in Allentown called me and asked me if I would do a weekend retreat called Beauty from Ashes. She said, we know we have wounded women in our pews and we know that we're not ministering to them. And so I did a 4-session retreat talking about how God uses pain and how He uses trials and difficult circumstances and the need that we have to be willing to confess those things to one another and to deal with them. And so I wanted to do that again, but what I realized is the thing that church did that was so fabulous was after each session in that weekend retreat, they had small groups meet, and the same small group was then going to continue outside that retreat. So these women who are going to have this wound, these wounds kind of brought forward, had a small group of people out there willing to hold their arms up in the battle. The thing that I've learned, another thing that I've learned a lot, is that it takes time. Some women don't go, oh yeah, well that's one of my problems. I need to go get some help for this. They don't. It's not comfortable. They're afraid. It's almost like they're more comfortable in their pain because they know what that feels like than the risk that it is to go tell somebody what's happened to you and make some real positive changes in your life. But anyway, when I thought about doing that kind of on my own outside of a church setting, you realize that you may open wounds that then are just open. There is no one to come alongside. And so the point of Pain in the Pew is, how do we minister? How can we encourage and hold up the arms of another woman who's in a difficult situation, or maybe has been for years and years and years? So that's really my ministry. I go where God calls me and I tell people what he tells me to tell them. Any questions there?